Welcome back to another episode of Chit Chat. This is episode 131, and it's the last Chit Chat of 2023.
Yeah, wow.
Goodbye.
And to celebrate that, we have Jeremy here on set with us.
I have literally teleported here.
Oh, boy.
Man, if you could teleport...
You can't tell he's wearing a Nightcrawler shirt.
My name is Kurt Wagner. In the Munich Circus, I was known as the amazing Nightcrawler.
You're a fan, then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
Not to celebrate, we don't have Emily here. But we will have Emily here shortly. Jeremy came down for the weekend. We're going to be recording a handful of different things.
Yeah.
Some of which you may have already seen by now because of this posting at a later date.
Also just because of how time works.
Yeah.
Yeah, just how you're not seeing it right this second.
Yes.
Or maybe you are. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk on this Chit Chat about reviews. This will be an interesting Chit Chat. We want to talk kind of about our review process, our philosophy about reviews, how we approach reviews, our rating scales, all sorts of things. All these things are kind of constantly in flux. We're always discussing them. We're always trying to kind of consider how should we go about doing these things. But one question came up recently on one of our reviews, and it made me think about this, and I want to talk about this specifically so we can start with this part.
Okay.
The question came up about how many times we'd played a game. We did a review for Apiary, and I had said in the review that I had only played it once.
Yeah.
You'd played it
Three
a
times
few
at
times.
that point.
How dare you?
Spoiler alert. We're going to be playing a little How Dare You.
We're going to be playing How Dare You later.
But we did this, and we had some comments where people were kind of, bringing up the fact like, well, you only played it once. Like, kind of like questioning how could you know what you need to know about the game after having played it once. Right. And we wanted to talk about that a little bit in the most transparent manner, because I know there's a lot of review outlets, ourselves included, that have talked about this in the past. Like, well, I like to play it X number of times before I do that. I wanted to talk about some of the pros and cons of different approaches on that front, because I think we've done things a little bit differently. And so I'll start on that front. I think sometimes when I play a game and I really love it the first time I play it, can that game sort of wane over time? For sure. But could it turn to awful? Probably not. Like, I generally feel like if I play a game the first time and I'm falling head over heels in love with it, it's doing some really good things and it's worth a high score. On the flip side, if I play a game that's really bad the first time, I have to chalk that up to potentially the experience, the people at the table, my mood that day. I need to give it more of a chance, because there's been plenty of times where I played a game and it didn't sit with me, it didn't grok with me. And then in some cases, like Revive, the very next day, we played it and I absolutely fell in love with it. So what do you guys think?
Well, I want to talk about video games for a second. Because I think a lot of people that play board games do play video games and video game reviews too. How many of you have picked up a video game? You can play it for 10 minutes and you can go, oh, this feels really good. The controls feel smooth, or they don't. You can tell so fast if a video game is not for you. And I think we can do the same thing with board games. We play hundreds of board games a year. By this point, we can kind of tell if a game is working for us or not. Sometimes even during the teach. Right. You can get through a teach and go, oh, this feels really good. I really like how these components are working together, how these different systems are linked. And then sometimes it doesn't live up to that.
Sure.
But like with Apiary, for example, like you play it one time, it's like, this hits a lot of the buttons I like. It does things a little bit differently. It does things in a little bit more of a satisfying way. And I don't want to just talk about Apiary. No. Just when we play a game, we played Sankore recently too, which we'll talk about later. And like, sometimes it just hits you in a way and you're like, out of the thousands of games that I've played, this one does something that really hits me. And it only really takes one play to know that, for me at least.
Yeah, I think when I'm experiencing a game, I just answer this question. The first thing is like, what makes this game fun? Like, am I having fun? Right away. Like, I'm having fun. I could break down mechanics. I can reduce a theme down to nothing. But like, am I enjoying the process, the experience? Does it feel different than the other game that I've played? It kind of varies depending on the title. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking like my time. And like, if a game is 3 hours long, that's fine. I'm fine with the game. I'm signing up for that experience. And I'm like, all right, but am I having fun? That's important. And I think sometimes, I think because we played so many games, whether you're going to have fun with this game or not. there may be something you may have played the game partially wrong, and maybe that messed up your experience, or you played it too late at night, you started it too late at night. So that really comes down to the experience.
No,
or you're having someone play a game with you that necessarily doesn't like that mechanic. So you're thinking about that experience, and maybe you argued over a rule, all that stuff. So it's like, that's why I try not to, whether I love a game or I do not like it at all, or I'm somewhere in between, I usually just let that first play be the first play.
Yeah.
Does it get me excited to get up maybe the next day and play it again? Sure. Or if it has a solo mode and I love the game, do I want to play it again right away? Sure. But I try not to judge games or put the word out. And I kind of stopped doing first impressions. Like, I just kind of stopped doing that. But I will from time to time, because I just don't want to react so fast. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sure. Now, I will probably do some just plays here and there, but like, it's kind of hard for me to put something out and not 100% like, not know for sure. I want to be closer to sure.
And I think this brings up a couple good points. One, people look at games very differently. What they take away from an experience and how they would potentially review the game is very different. Yeah. You mentioned some things in terms of it doing something different. I mean, some of the things that you go through or other people go through in their minds of like, why this game is good to me is different than, say, me, where I look at first and foremost, I will agree with this, fun. The game is fun. And if I find myself pausing throughout my first play and just kind of like going, this is stupid how much fun I'm having here and here and here. I know that it's a game that's going to happen with at least a few more times, which brings me to my next point. In this day and age, and I'm not advocating people just play games, put them away, play the next game.
That game has fallen several times since I've been here. That's amazing.
That's a cursed game.
That game is cursed. All right, anyway.
All right, we're back. Things happen on Chit Chat. Okay. We decided that none of us were going to get up and go over there and pick that box up. But it's there. That's not the game I was talking about, by the way. But my point was going to be is that you can just put games aside. A lot of us can do that because that's how we play. We're very cult of the new. Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't advocate that. Yeah. Play your games, enjoy your games however you want to enjoy them. But when I think of a lot about how many people these days enjoy their games, and I can say in my head after first play, this is going to be good for a few plays. For me, that's enough because I'm not going to get more than a few plays out of just about any game anyway. And if a lot of people out there listening are honest with themselves, I think a lot of people look at games that same way. Now, there's plenty of you that don't. There's plenty of you that pull off old games off the shelf and play them too. But if you are a bit of the cult of the new, I think first impressions have a place there. And we were going to do a first impressions on Apiary, but I felt so confident after playing it.
And I'd played it so many times.
My opinion's not going to change. And I have since played it probably 5 times total. I still feel the same way.
I do too.
Here's the deal though, like when you just said that, like does a game have legs? So one of the things that I critique is like, will I play this beyond 3 times? Or if I start to play a game, like does it start to die off for me? Although I still enjoy the design. That's something I want to share with the audience. And like I think that's something that reviewers often do is think about, does this game have any legs?
Sure.
Does it play well at a certain player count? Even if you haven't played that player count, you can go, you know what? We had a lot of fun at 2, and I think I would play it with a 3rd player. Then I tried it at 4, and it didn't feel right. So I think 3-player is the thing. As you're playing these games, you're trying to find the words or find what fits so that you can communicate that to your audience. And those are the things that I continuously think about. It's like, hey, am I having fun? Great. How long is this taking to play? I don't track time. I don't track scores. I don't care about the scores. I can tell, hey, maybe that person won by 40 points because they were just better at that mechanic and understand that game. Or it could have been like, did we just manipulate a card? Is that not balanced? So
sure.
So it's just like something that you also are, talking with the people across from the table with you. Maybe you're not having as much fun, but then you ask those people why they're having fun. Because that helps me get language to understand what I'm going to project to the audience. It's like, hey, this game wasn't for me, but I had 2 people at the table. They played it twice with me. They had an absolute blast. They were talking about this and like that. It just didn't hit me. This is my number. This is my score. This is how I feel. And that goes into what we were talking about before, because Dave and I fundamentally do not agree on scoring. So
on scores.
Yeah, but scoring,
Sure.
we've talked about this on the channel a lot as far as like what a score means. And like we kind of hope like that as you watch the channel, as you watch Chit Chats, you get to know our personalities, you get to know what games we like. When I say a game is a 9, it probably means it's got some crunchy decisions. When David gives a game a 9, it's probably a game that's a lot of fun turn to turn. And you know that because you watch. But somebody that's looking for a review of Sankore or Barcelona or Apiary that's just Googling it, that's never watched MVM, they don't know what it means when I give it an 8 or when David gives it a 6. They just think, oh, David gave it a 6. It must be a bad game. Maybe not. Maybe David just doesn't like it. And that's I think the really hard part about giving any kind of number is that you need a lot of context about what the person enjoys before you can understand why they gave it that number, or if that, like a 9 for Tom Vassell might not be a game that I enjoy because we fundamentally like different styles of games.
Sure.
And I think that's because I watched Dice Tower, I know Tom, and I know what kind of games he likes. I can decide that for myself. But I think anybody that looks and goes, oh, well, so-and-so gave it a 9, it must be Game of the Year quality. Right. That doesn't mean you're going to like it necessarily.
No, it doesn't. And here's another thing I'll add. And this is a big part of this topic, so I won't go on too much. But one thing I want to add about numbers, in addition to the fact that it's very subjective, like what Ryan was just saying, your 9 may not be my 9, given the particular type of game. But the other thing going on with numbers is I've always tried to consider, okay, even if this game isn't for me, I'm not going to rate it a 5 because the game itself, in the absolute, is probably not a 5, particularly if other people are rating it a 9. So I try to take myself a little bit out of it too, so as to not punish a game for my experience. So like there's plenty of games in my history here on MVM, certainly earlier rather than later, that I've played, and it was about the experience playing it that formed my opinion of the game. And it wasn't fair to those games because it was like a bad day, not a great mix of people. Yeah, all those things really affect that. So we've got to be careful about letting those things affect the scores that we give. But we're back and forth on the numbers for sure. Jeremy and I talked on the phone just the other day
for like an hour about this. But I really feel that if you are good at explaining what your criterias are or what your score means, that it's important. So like Terraforming Mars is a game I would give a 6. I could explain why it's a 6, and I could explain why I think it's an okay game, because 6 is not a bad score. It may feel bad to you, but because I would give it a 6 and tell you why, you would know something about me. You would understand something about me, how I see this game as a lower number. And I would say Underwater Cities is a 7. And I would explain the difference between the two. But I would also say I'm kind of waffling between a 6 too. It's kind of, I just want you to know, thematically speaking, they're kind of in this kind of my aura, this is how it is. But I would explain the difference between a 6 and a 7 to you very clearly, because I would recommend Underwater Cities, but I would stick my chest out for it a little bit more. Whereas Terraforming Mars, I would explain to you what my frustrations is, what's going on in design, and how I wanted to connect with it, and I don't. I will not recommend that. Yeah. I wouldn't with all my heart. Like if somebody was saying, I want to know what you like, Jeremy, I would say, first of all, watch that Dice Tower video about 10 top 10 games I hate. You'll understand why. But Terraforming Mars is a big one. But I think as long as I'm clear on explaining what those things mean, that people will understand that. And hopefully over time, if you watch our channel, you will get to know our interests and the things we talk about when we talk about games. And then you start to connect with each one of us as reviewers, but you'll also respect us regardless, because you know exactly where we're coming from. I feel like our channel is one of the best channels at explaining how we feel about games. Hopefully you hear some things that are very specific that you like to hear. And if you don't get that inside of the video, I hope we do a great job of responding to you in the comments as well. Because we want you to know, how we feel about these games. We don't want to just, we do a lot of previews here. We can't say like everything we feel or anything like that. But we also want you to know in all our other content, like we are showing you games that we typically enjoy, right? Like we want to show you games that we typically enjoy. I don't want to show you I don't want to crap on games. There's games that I do give 5s and 6s. You watch the solo chat, you know that, but I tell you why. I don't want to run from games I don't like either. But because there's some games I really wanted to like and they were disappointing, right? So just know that we are doing our best to communicate with you our types of games, the games that you want to know about. We're giving you our nice, honest opinions, and honest just meaning we're just telling you how we feel about the game. It's not a stick your chest out to be negative type thing, or we're hiding something behind the scenes here. It's just saying what's up, man. Like,
I would underscore and I completely agree. Listen to our words that we use.
Not just the number.
And this is where I think we slightly disagree. I'm happy with you just listening to our words and not listening to a number. Now, if we give you both and you take both in, you'll start to be able to consider what our numbers mean. Yeah. So I get that. So that is probably how we will forge ahead with our reviews. There is another point I wanted to make, unless you had something on that.
Probably the same point.
But I don't know if it is. But there's one thing I wanted to point out, and I try very hard not to do this on this channel. But when it comes to the number of times, back to our original question.
That's why we're here.
That a game gets played. Sometimes playing a game too much can actually have a negative impact on people's impressions of the game.
Yeah,
there are videos on this channel that are guilty of that. There are videos on other channels that I've seen that I believe to be guilty of that as well, where someone says, I want to get a review up really quick. We want to get a review up fast. Hey. We got to play this 5 times in the next 3 days.
Yep.
I can tell you this right now. I don't care what game it is. If I set myself a goal to play it 5 times in the next 3 days, if it's a sizable game that takes some time, by the time that's over, I'm probably going to have a negative taste in my mouth about the game. Yeah. It's going to affect my attitude towards the game. So playing a game naturally multiple times can be useful, particularly when it comes to like sorting out, like, is the game broken or is it balanced? Yeah. Side note on that, I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know that most people actually do.
If a game is not balanced, plenty of great games are not perfectly balanced.
Tzolk'in is not perfectly balanced.
Right, so we're not, at least me, I'll speak for myself. When I give a review and I talk about a game, one of the variables that does not enter my mind is it expertly balanced perfectly? No, I don't care. In fact, most cases, I like games that have a little wild chaos to them.
Makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much what I was going to say, because I wanted to talk about just a little bit about our Just Played kind of style of doing reviews, where we talk about like who it's for and who it's not for often just like after a play or two, because I think we are trapped as reviewers. And there's people on both sides. People want to know about a game before they buy it.
Right.
You don't want to wait 6 months to find out if this hot new Gen Con game is worth it to you or not. But if you want us to play a game 10 times before we review it, it's going to take several months, because just like David said, I don't want to play that game 10 times in 1 week.
No.
Now, like video game reviewers, they can play a game 20 hours straight, and you can do that in 2 days, in a weekend, play a game for 20 hours. For me to put 20 hours into a board game, it's going to take several weeks. And that means that you're not going to hear about hot new games until the next new hot game is already out.
I was going to say like big box games. So like typically let's just give you an idea. Like, so if I'm going to review a big box game, I try to play at least 6 missions. That's like my goal. Like get to 6 missions. I don't know why I've decided that number. 6 missions. If it's a game that takes like an hour or less, I'll try to play it like 3 to 5 times. Big Euro, 2 or 3 times, just because some of the big Euros I play are really heavy games. Yeah. So I'll end up playing it like twice with people, and then I'll play it solo if it has a solo mode. Mm-hmm. That way I get to at least 3 plays of it. Or sometimes I just play completely solo, and then maybe I'll play with one other player because I understand the game. Like I understand the gameplay. Yeah. I don't need to play it with too many more people. I'm just saying, okay, now that I've seen it and I play it with somebody else, there's like a dummy player. I want to know if it works with the dummy player or not. Or there's just something that I'm knowing. And you have to trust that my knowledge in the design or just playing that many games, that I can make that call on it. But I would also communicate that with you. And if I didn't, I would hope you just trust my opinion, because I'm communicating what I think the experience would be like. Yeah. Sometimes I'll even say I didn't play it at 4. Like I didn't play Apiary at 5 players. I have no desire to. You know, like I have no desire to. Whereas one reviewer I watch, that's the first time they played it at 5 players. I'm like, that sounds like a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like max player counts for me sometimes feel like a disaster. So like that's a difference between me and other people. It's like sometimes I don't try to get the most people to the table first. Sometimes I like a quiet, intimate experience with the game, me and someone else, or just by myself. So it's just you'll get to know that as you watch us more.
And that's why I actually like doing these first impressions videos. Yeah. And like some people might ask us like, okay, well, can we get in there and like really talk about the balance or really talk about what do you care about as a viewer? I want to know this honestly.
Let us know.
Because first impressions for me, you can see our first impressions. The first impression for you is the most important. If you buy a game and you go, well, my first impression was terrible. Does it matter that we gave it a 9? Yeah. Does it matter that after 10 plays, it's going to be the best game you've ever played? Right. Are you going to want it to play it 10 times if your first impression was bad? So coming into it from that perspective of like, okay, who it's for, who it's not for. We think if you like this kind of game, if you like that kind of game, maybe this is one that you want to look at. Like it, I honestly feel like we get a lot of value out of presenting that. And people seem to really like that.
Yeah.
But I would like to hear from the comments and from people watching this right now, like, yeah, if I tell you that, okay, you're probably going to have a really bad first play, but your second play, third play are going to get better. Mm-hmm. Like White Castle, I think, is a great example for that. Right. When we did our Just Played, I could straight up say, I feel, for my first impression, I didn't love it at 2 players. It was a tough first play, but I want to come back to it and I want to play it again. And I think that you as a gamer are going to feel the same way, and a lot of people have. Whereas there's some games I think, this was not fun, this was painful, it was tedious, I don't want to play it again, and I don't think you will ever play it more than once.
Or like a game like Oathsworn, if I play the first 3 missions, I pretty much learned nothing about the gameplay experience. So it wouldn't be fair to you. It would let you know that I'm enjoying the game. But if there's some major plot twist that happened, and maybe you have gotten your Kickstarter copy, like when I got the review copy sent to me or whatever, I got my Kickstarter pledge the same time you did, and you could say like, there's a whole twist that happens in X number story, and it's like sometimes I may have reached that, sometimes I may have not, but I'm still enjoying the experiences just as much as you, or I'm not enjoying the experience as much as you, and I don't want to play past the 3rd mission. There is that as well. I've played a game. I'm trying to think of that. There was a cooperative game I played last year, and it was six missions, and I got to the 4th, and it was so hard for me to get to 4, 5, and 6 because I was hoping that it was going to get better, and I forced my way through something I did not want to play. It is so rare that people who do not review games would force themselves to play 3 extra missions of something they don't want, just to make sure they're getting out the proper just do opinion. Right. That's something that we have to deal with in some cases. It's like, you know what, I'll just give it one more shot. Or I come down here and you're like, all right, we'll play it one more time because Jeremy seems like he's interested in it. I don't like it though. Like that's stuff that we have to do if we decide to take this on sometimes.
Yes.
And that's not fun. Like that's actually not fun. I just want to let you know that sometimes we do things that are not fun.
Especially if you don't find the fun in the game.
So it's like, here we are stretching out that 3rd or 4th play of a game we typically don't like. Maybe it'll hook one more time,
now,
right?
On the flip side of that, there is the idea that we have enough experience, and this gets back to a point Ryan made early on. We do this enough, and not to like sound all braggy or anything like this, but we play a lot of games. I'm sorry. I am.
Mm-hmm. You get all the toys.
We can extrapolate out to some degree. The example Jeremy just gave of playing Oathsworn up to the 3rd chapter, I would agree that you need to play Oathsworn a little longer.
You do.
Although it's not that I was trying to find the fun. I liked Oathsworn chapter 1.
Yeah, that game
chapter
sucked
2,
me immediately.
Chapter 3.
Right.
But there is a certain point in Oathsworn where I got to a point where I'm like, this game has been fun all along. It's doing wildly different things. And if you know that there's X number of chapters total, I can tell myself, you know what? If it doesn't escalate anymore, I know enough to know that I'm going to enjoy the rest of it. Even if it just does what it did here in the first 6 chapters 3 more times, I'm fine. So at that point, I don't need to necessarily play all the way to chapter 20-something to go, okay. Because even if the game just does what it's done so far again and rinse and repeat, I can say that would be enough for me to have a lot of fun.
So like Revive has a campaign in it. Well, I feel like our job is to kind of like play through some of that. Well, the first 2 or 3 parts of that campaign are really rules that some people may teach you like right away and not even tell you about
campaign is a loose word there.
We need to play those things. We have to inform you of those details to kind of give people those things. So it's like, what if it wasn't fun and you didn't want to play it the next day?
Yeah.
Well, we had to add some rules in there so you could see this is what the game is. Then it also came together, and now you got the hook. Now you probably want to play with the draft rules and other cards and stuff like that. But that's some of the things that we have to kind of push through. And thankfully that game worked for you. But like when they don't, sometimes we still have to give games more chances because maybe you play it with the base character, then you play it with the faction. Maybe the faction was bad. I mean, I've seen people play Spirit Island and Too Many Bones, and they picked the most difficult spirits and the most difficult characters because they were cool, but they weren't the right fit for them to learn the game. So those are things that we still have to take on to decide that. And it's not woe is me. It's just that is a lot. It can be a lot. It's time consuming, and that on top of that, that's editing. You know, you're changing your thoughts. You're kind of thinking like, oh man, I need to say this. I need to say that. I want to make sure everybody understands. And on top of that, what's the final word? And that's for me. I like to have a score so I can give my final word on something. And how many times I played it, not as important to me, but I would hope that you know that I've played it enough to communicate what the experience was. That's kind of where I get to that. Like, I get it. Some people do want to know that really bad. You have to let us know that in the comments below. But like, for me, it's just like, man, trust me. I wouldn't just kind of go up here and blow smoke, man. Like, I'm 45. Like, I'm not here to blow smoke on you, man. Like, it's okay. Like, it's a board game. I want to let you know is it cool or not, and my score. I don't need to like be like, I only played it once. Well, I think, you know, like, I don't know, like, I'm not dying to be first or anything like that.
I think the last thing you touch on, the last thing I want to say before we move on for sure is just, I think as long as we as content creators are honest about that, and that's what we like. Sure. That's what we did that in Apiary, and people called foul for David, but he was honest. Would you rather that David says,
yeah, he could have said nothing.
I've only played this once, or you could. I guarantee. When I listen to some people review a game, I can tell that they've only played it one time. They're just not saying it. Yeah. I'd rather just come out and be like, honestly, and to a point that Jeremy said, like, we play games we don't like more than games we do. Yeah. And that's a problem. Because if I like a game on the first play, like David said earlier, if I like it on the first play, the second play, I can pretty much guarantee that I'm still going to like it to some degree after my 10th play. But a game that I like hate, I will play that game again just to make sure I still hate it on the second play.
Yeah, and part of the reason I added that in that video was we generally enter games with a skeptical slant. You know, almost any game, you know, especially even if it's been, you know, we're like, okay, we'll see if this is good. Yeah. So when we play a game, and I wanted to share that because I was like, despite it being just my first play, I wanted to use that to underscore how much fun it was just from the start. Like, it just hit everything that I wanted in a game in my first play. And I think it was so noteworthy that you know, Ryan and I were sitting there at the table. We were about to record and just played. And I said, do a review. Get a little deeper. Let's do a full review and get a little deeper with this game because I really wanted to share that for sure.
And it's you know, it is part of the process. I mean, we want to give every game a fair shot, but like if game immediately, I want to tell you. If I love a movie I don't need to watch a movie immediately to tell you that it's fun or that you're going to enjoy it. Like, I don't necessarily need to play a board game. Now, there are some times when that is required when you know, but like even so, like, well, it's funny because we'll say, "Hey, I just played Barcelona." And somebody in the comments will be like, well, what is your number rating? I'm like, well, I just said I just played it one time, and you're asking for a number rating video. But if I was to do a video and say, I just played it one time, it's a 9, people will go, well, you only played it one time.
Now, those probably aren't the same people doing that.
But it could be the same person doing it.
If it's not, you're a troll. Get out of our comments. You're a troll.
Is like, it's
I love a good troll, but
I love a good troll. It's just very difficult to please everybody.
I love a good troll.
I like the way that we're doing things. We have some plans for 2023 and how we kind of want to approach different kinds of formats of like how to recommend to people, how to kind of express, do we think you would enjoy this game? Do we think that this is a game that you need to own? And I really think what it comes down to, all we're trying to do is help you figure out if this game is for you or not.
Yeah, and like Jeremy said, please let us know in the comments what you think. Do you want numbers? Do you want, like, hey, do you like these games? Because we like to do that. Like, sometimes you haven't played those games. Or like sometimes you haven't, just giving an idea of who plays just for who it might not be for. I think based on the comments we've gotten on our Just Playeds, for the most part, a lot of people have pointed out how much they like that format
I like that format
because of the who it's for, who it's not for sort of thing. So we'll continue to do a variety of things, but do let us know in the comments below. Next up, we're going to be playing another round. I'm not going to look at the answers.
How dare you?
Of How Dare You. This is in honor of a couple things. One, Jeremy being here, and he's a huge fan of the game.
Yes.
As we all are. We are also going to celebrate the holidays, so I've picked a few categories here we'll get to in a second. All right, and we're back with a little bit of...
How dare you?
Nice, as if on cue. I've picked 3 categories here that kind of represent things that maybe the 3 of us would like to receive as gifts this holiday season. Or
are you
give.
hinting?
Or enjoy. Yeah. No, I'm
or
not
might have
hinting.
already gotten, depending on when you watch this video.
Are you buying me Spider-Man 2? That'd be great.
One gift that you need is How Dare You, the game.
Yeah.
You said you looked it up. It was like $15 or something.
I want to say it's like 13. Yeah,
it's not a lot.
Dude.
It is one of the best little games. We had it on our holiday gift guide as one of the best stocking stuffers.
Clean up. It will clean up.
You'll play this with anyone, and everyone will want to just keep playing it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
with that said, I've picked categories meaningful to all of us. Superheroes, in honor of everyone. I mean, he's wearing a Nightcrawler shirt.
Do
and
enjoy
Ryan,
a good superhero. Well, I got my Avengers hat on right now.
Video games, another love of ours here.
True.
And then, of course, board games. So, I'm going to start, and I'm going to start with superheroes. Give me a number between 1 and 6, Ryan.
4.
4. Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, this is interesting. I like this one. Testing Ryan's knowledge for sure. I'm going to start, though. Captain America's age at the end of Avengers Endgame.
Ooh, Captain America's age at the end of Avengers Endgame.
So, the way this game works, if you haven't seen it, I say that, and then I'm going to guess at what that age is. And then it's going to go to Jeremy, then it's going to go to Ryan, until someone says...
How dare you?
And when they think that someone's gone too high, and then you'll see what happens. So, Captain America's age at the end of Avengers Endgame, I'm going to say he was, let's see.
I'm doing the math.
I'm definitely doing the math.
I know when he was born, and I know when Endgame happened. So, that should have...
I don't know when he was born. That's the problem.
I'm going to say he was 105.
I'm just going to say, how dare you right out the gate.
How dare you right off the gate?
Well, really?
Right
He's older than that.
How dare you?
Out the gate, yeah.
All right. How dare you? And here's the answer. 179.
Yeah. Wait,
he was frozen for 66 years and also traveled through time. Well, I don't know how they're calculating.
Are they counting the travel through time?
Yeah.
Like at the end of Endgame.
Oh, the old version.
The old Steve Rogers.
Oh, that's actually a creative way. So what they're doing is
plot twist.
He was frozen and then he went back in time and lived a whole nother life.
He was frozen. He was like 20-something when he was frozen. He lived a whole nother life. So he was frozen for those years. He lived another like 30 years, probably going back in time.
But here's how it works.
Come on.
I was safe. He was wrong. He gets 2 silly goose points and that card.
That one was tough. That was a little trick question. I was going to say like it was like 107 or 108.
And we're going to let Jeremy start the next one. Video games.
The time travel.
I'm going to say...
So smart.
Video games.
Number 2.
I'm going to read number 5. It's better.
Oh, okay.
Number of playable characters.
That's not how this game works, by the way.
Number and playable. This is after some eggnogs, buddy, okay? Tipping back some of that, the eggnogs. Number of playable characters in Street Fighter 2.
Oh, Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2.
Regular Street Fighter 2.
I mean, I'm just going to say it must be just straight up Street Fighter 2.
Not Street Fighter 2
This is very
Turbo.
tricky. This is very tricky.
Is it?
I'm going to say 12.
Dang it, I was going to say 12. I'll say...
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait.
What?
Jeremy starts.
Oh.
And then it goes to you, so I'm last. Ugh.
16.
Dang it.
16?
16? 16? How dare you? 16 characters in regular Street Fighter 2?
This is going really,
This
really
is a
quick.
weird game of How Dare You.
This is a really weird game.
So you said How Dare You to 16?
Oh, yeah.
16?
Oh, yeah.
On regular arcade first
on the
edition
original
of Street
OG is
Fighter
8.
2. Yeah?
It's 20.
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
In Street Fighter 2, there's 20?
Yeah,
Tell me
20.
it lists them.
Yeah, 20.
What
20
number
from
was
12 different countries. It's 20.
Wow.
I was like,
I thought it was
16
8.
minimum. I
mean, it doesn't list them. It just says 20.
Oh, I'm way off then. For regular, I remember Street Fighter 2 Turbo had a ton of characters.
No, Championship Edition.
Yeah, that had a ton of characters.
Ryan
that
gets
Well,
3
fine.
silly goose points.
I thought for sure
Silly goose.
I'm in the clear here because the last one is only 2 silly goose points. But Ryan, you get to start it.
Oh boy.
Are you gonna pick the number? Or should I say one? And
You can say a number. Say a number.
Yeah.
One.
Oh, percentage of chess matches won by white.
So the team that goes first, or the side that goes first.
I'll say 53%.
58.
I'm gonna say, oof.
I'll take it down. I'll go to 56.
I'll go 60.
Oh, I will say, how dare you?
Okay.
If chess is that swayed that white has a 60% chance of winning?
First go is pretty tough.
But 60%? That seems like,
it's tough,
okay,
man.
fine.
Let's see it.
Oh, it's 37%.
Oh, it was opposite day.
Everyone was right.
Whoa.
Or wrong.
We're all right.
Well, yeah, this was a trick question, though.
Oh.
So white's win percentage is 38. Black's win percentage, or white is 37. Black's win percentage is 28%.
Okay.
Oh, another stalemate?
The rest are all stalemates.
Wow.
So that is a little bit of a...
That's like the worse than the Steve Rogers
But I was
one.
like, no way is it like 60%. If there was a 60% chance of winning as a white player, would be so unbalanced.
We're very sorry here. Street Fighter II Championship Edition, not including ties. Okay, not including ties.
Oh, is it Championship Edition?
Well, it has to be Championship Edition,
for
which
it to be
does
20
have 20
characters. Yeah,
oh, really?
Now I kind of want to know. I feel like I got robbed.
No, I'm serious. Like, that's not just Street Fighter 2.
Let me see the Street Fighter one.
We're all passing it around. It does say 20
dare
characters.
this game?
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
All right.
Anyway,
let's
either
talk about
way,
some games.
it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
We'll be back in a second to talk about not how dare you, but a few other games that we've been playing. But before that, let's talk about Phantom Sleeves. If you play board games with cards and you want them protected, you should check out Phantom Sleeves. They're top-notch quality, easy to play with, and they care about your cards and the environment. Plus, Phantom Sleeves are made with board gamers in mind. The sheer variety of sizes and shapes is kind of crazy. So no matter what game you're playing, they most likely have the perfect sleeve. And whether you want to see your cards crystal clear or avoid that annoying glare from the lights above your table, they've got you covered with both glossy and matte options. And if you're like, I just don't sleeve my cards, well, maybe you should stop and think for a second. Who's going to protect the dusky leaf monkey? Phantom Sleeves. That's who. And we're back to talk about some of the games we've been playing. We each have a game to talk about. Yep. We've been playing lots of games over the holidays. We've been playing, in preparation for our top 10, probably some of the games that we had played throughout the year to see if we can filter out that top 10.
It's tough.
But some of the new ones we've been playing as well. And I'll start. The first one is Blueprints of Mad King Ludwig. We just recently put up a Just Played earlier this month on this. This is... got a lot of the vibes of the Mad King Ludwig games.
With colored pencils.
With colored pencils and drawing. So you're drafting cards. They've taken out, the mechanics of where you're bidding and like kind of the eye split you choose of that player, like moving them around and placing them where they wanted on the bids. And they're just a display of cards that you draft from in turn order. And some interesting rooms too.
Yeah.
The
interesting shapes.
Yeah, the shapes are a little bit more interesting. Basically, they've taken what you can do with paper and pencil and amplified all the things you'd want. Like, oh, we could do some crazy rooms. Oh, we can do rules where you can erase doors and add doors and all sorts of stuff. So it does a lot of those things. I found it I've played this a few times, and when I played it with Alicia, very soothing, very chill. We both
soothing?
Yeah. 100%.
That's a very interesting reviewer word.
Soothing. I know it's a unique experience with this game because I find, not that I do this often, but coloring in coloring books to be a very soothing experience.
Did you have like little mist in the background by playing chess?
We played.
You lit a candle.
We played some meditation music.
A bottle of wine. Yeah.
There was no wine involved.
A little Franzia.
No, but it was very soothing in that I really like, I'm one of those people who like coloring within the lines and doing it just so. As you can see, if you watch our Just Played, there's a couple images of my castle next to Ryan's castle. and you'll see some of the differences between me and Ryan as human beings.
A little bit of rebel with the lines there,
I'm
Ryan.
just a get it done on paper person.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like I think that's one thing that and I said this in our little just played about that game is like it does give you the tools to like feel like you're drawing a castle, and it almost like takes you back to when you're a kid, you ever do that? I used to draw.
Yeah, I drew on graph paper all the time.
Yeah, I used to make the craziest castles. Like
it makes sense, right?
When I'm a little kid, like it brings you back to that feeling. Like it brings you back to that drawing these little.
Never drawing in lines. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I never.
I'm not that kid.
I don't have a steady hand. But like I would just draw on like even like those big sheets of white paper, like build my own castles that didn't have any kind of actual sense of actual architecture whatsoever.
I don't even want to touch on this game because I can think back to some of my cartographer games where it just looks like an absolute mess. An absolute mess. And then
you might have fun with it still.
Who knows? I don't know.
Before we get too off track, let's just say this does not require any kind of artistic skill whatsoever.
I know.
No. You don't need anything.
You just play with people who are like that. You know what I'm saying? Like the cartographer people who have like color pencils.
Oh, sure.
Like they whip out their own little special kit. Well, this one I think comes with a kit, right?
Yeah, it does.
Almost like
it comes with
it's a really high quality product from what I've seen of it. I haven't played it, but
tons of replayability because there's so many different scoring elements to the game.
It does fit in with cartographers. Like cartographers, this game, Next Station London, anything where you get done and you have like a really nice, colorful map in front of you that you feel like, oh wow, I actually did something here.
If what he just said sounds appealing, this game is for you. Yeah. One thing we mentioned in our Just Played is that some players might like be more about like, can we wrap this up so we can get on and play another game? Those types of players and the other ones might clash a little bit at the table because the people who want to take their time and draw
that's fair. It's good to know.
Could possibly slow things down.
Sure.
All right, well, we got the chance the other day to play Sankore for the first time, which is one that I had been looking forward to for a long time. I am so glad I finally got a chance to play this
Fabio.
I say that it's not even really out yet, but like
it's not. But
people have been buzzing about it like almost I feel like all year long.
I've been ready for this.
And I was so ready for it, and it absolutely lived. Like I didn't have a ton of expectations because people buzz about things all the time, like we just talked about, that turn out to be not great.
And we didn't know much about it,
right?
It's from the Merv designer, and I assumed it was going to be similar weight.
This was way heavier.
Fabio Lupiano. Like as soon as I hear that name, I'm very interested. So. Not all the games are hits, but it's like I'm just interested in that type of design space that he's in.
Well, this one was a hit. Spoiler alert, this was a big hit for me.
Okay.
The way that this game like presents the theme of being in a school and teaching these subjects, and you have these different mini games of like astronomy and math and law and religion.
You might like it.
Oh, it's so good. You're like teaching students, and as you teach students, they advance up, but like you have to like almost you're building your own classroom with these class tiles. And each class is like you have your introductory classes and then your grade 1, 2, 3, 4 classes. Yes. And as students get promoted, as they like become better at school, they can start doing these better actions and taking these more advanced classes. And it's just a really satisfying, to me at least, super satisfying mechanic.
We're playing this.
Yeah, I think we will be playing this. And we have played it. In fact, we had just played it. And Ryan and I, we do have content up on that as well. But to add to what Ryan was saying, it is an interesting game for a mix of players. I think this is a heavy game.
Yeah.
So these are not generally my cup of tea, but every so often there's a heavy game that I've played. Then even if the first experience wasn't exactly glowing for me, it was enough there to recognize that I saw what the game is doing and what it's offering, and I want to get better. I rarely want to get better at a game. I know you're like, who's that? Me. I don't care about getting better much. I just want to have fun.
Sure.
And it took me a minute to grok what was going on with the first play. It makes me want to play it again.
Yeah, for sure.
So the two games I have played.
Two games.
The two games I had played, those are going to be in my top 10. So if you watch the top 10, you'll hear me talk about them. I'm not going to share those here. The one thing I've been doing is preparing. I'm preparing to go back into the world of darkness. That is Kingdom Death Monster.
Oh, wow.
So I got my old game out. I bought 2 update kits because I was 2 update kits behind because it's been such a long time since I played it. I bought 4 new expansions, 4 or 5 new expansions for this game. I'm assembling figures. I'm back in downloading sheets, watching videos. It's a thing. It's a big game for me. It's a big, very special game to me. And with the Gambler's Chest, it presents a whole new set of how to play the game. and also just like incorporate it into old stuff, but it has its own campaign as well. So I'm trying to gather all the right resources that I want to make the experience the same. I bought like a little extra notebook for notes and little sleeve spots so I can put them like in little coin sleeves so all my cards look like shops when I open them. Like it's going back to where I was. It's going back to the beginning. And this should be a really fun experience because literally that game, Kingdom Death Monster, is the reason why I'm here today. So it's really, it's crazy. Like it's just crazy to have that game again.
I'm just hoping that after we record and I ask Jeremy to send me pictures of Kingdom Death Monster, that the pictures that we've put up during this segment can be shown on the channel.
Yeah,
so
well,
I'm
actually, we're
telling you right now.
Yeah,
if they aren't, it's his fault, and maybe I've blurred some.
Yeah, I was gonna say use blurs. Use a lot of blurs.
Little heavy metal-ish.
In case you don't know the game, it has some interesting creatures.
Let's just say it's a little old school anime. Let's just say that.
It is a little old school.
It's a little
interesting design.
A little childish.
So anyway, those were the games that we've been playing, in addition, like we said, to a lot of the games that we've been playing for our top 10. Yeah. If you haven't seen our top 10, definitely check that out. It is up on the channel now. We had a wide variety of games in it. Yeah. Some overlap in it. We also had Emily in it. So be sure to check that out. And we will be back early next year with our next episode of Chit Chat. Until then, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.
Doing this, doing that.